Welcome in, Bronco Nation. What a win against Colorado State, something we desperately needed. We're going to go over some footage today talking about how we were able to do it. I know a lot of people were saying Nate Potter called a much better game this game. They were actually some conspiracies going around that Zach Hill had a part of it, but honestly, I think Nate Potter, the best games he's called has been against the worst opponents: Eastern Washington, App State, and Colorado State. It seems like to me, whenever we play an easier opponent, he kind of plays a little bit more free and loose and isn't as scared to go deep to try to make some big plays. Whenever we play a little bit harder opponent, he tends to play a little bit safe, and I think almost to a fault. He plays so safe that it kind of hinders us and stops us from making those explosive plays. You know, if he were to just call plays like he did against Colorado State, App State, and Eastern Washington every time, we would have a much better chance. So we're going to go over some footage today talking about that. First, we're going to look at some run plays by Boise State. So here's our first one. We can see they bring over two linemen that swap sides. This first guy here is going, or one's a tight end. This guy is going to go ahead and block this lineman, creating a gap right up the middle. And then the tight end is going to run up and take this linebacker out of the play. He kind of uses his shoulder just to slow him down just enough to get him out of the play there. I really wish, if he's going to throw his shoulder into him, I wish he would throw his shoulder hard and then get up to the second level. Because after he really hits his shoulder, he doesn't do much after that to keep this guy out of the play. I think at this time, instead of turning around and for some reason trying to continue protecting him, but doesn't, he just kind of looks at him. I wish he would turn left and actually block this guy as well. And if he had, we would have had a much bigger hole. But instead, this guy kind of slows down Sire Gaines just enough for the other two to catch up to him. Still a great run. Sire Gaines really pushed hard this game, was able to break a whole lot of tackles. Really good to see. So let's look at another one here. Tight end in motion. They block this guy. This guy kind of gets left alone. However, Sire Gaines sees that and he immediately cuts outward. Now, this is something I saw a lot in this game that I was really happy to see, was the running backs taking the outside when there wasn't a gap. This is something I feel like has been a little bit of a missed point all throughout the season. You know, there were times where there wasn't much of a gap to run through. However, there was a big opening on the side, and yet the running backs would still just try to run into the gap and not do much, you know? So it was nice to see them actually utilizing that outside when they saw the gap wasn't there. And we'll look at a few different examples of this. This is something I think they need to dial into the techniques of the running backs just a little bit more. It's something that Ashton Jeanty did really well. He would kind of cut a gap or even just cut straight to the outside. But as soon as he hit that gap, he would then bounce to the outside. And that was part of what made him successful. So here's another one. Sire Gaines again. And we see a similar thing in this where he kind of bounces to the outside. So this is a straight up block play. Everybody's just blocking their man. This guy does a great job of getting to the second level. I wish he had blocked that guy a little bit better. He kind of just like runs past him, lays hands on him, but doesn't really do much. I can't tell if that was the angle that the blocker was taking, the lineman, or if it was the linebacker does a good job of keeping him off. It was a little bit of both, I think. If you look, he's a little bit far to the right. He's like on the outside of that guy. And that enables him to be able to shove him over. So that keeps this linebacker in the play, but Sire Gaines does an amazing job of throwing a little stiff arm and getting right by him. So once again, like Sire Gaines did a great job. There's like 2 tackles right there missed. And then 3 with 2 different stiff arms. Like right here, I kind of wish he had cut back into the middle. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity here, but a good play is still a good play. And then here's something similar that we see with Malik Sherrod. So hands it off. Tight end swaps sides, creates the gap. Boise's line has done a really good job, especially this game, of crossing over to create unique gaps like that. It's something that I think is part of our identity, and it should be continuing going forward. They do a really good job of that. And then he just cuts that straight to the outside and takes it. It's just a minor criticism. I wish he had swapped hands here and kept the ball on his right side. Like right about here, he had time to swap it over. And then he would be able to stiff arm this guy. And I think this guy was coming in late enough. Like if you look right here, he's coming in late enough where if he were to throw a stiff arm there, like we just saw from Sire Gaines on the previous plays, I think he might have been able to get past this guy, break it in for a touchdown. Still a great play all around. Great blocking by the line. Great run by Malik Sherrod. Let's look at that again. So all of the line shifts to the left. And this tight end comes over to take this final guy that didn't get blocked out of the play. And that creates a perfect gap right here. They did a really nice job. One thing I do want to point out is 96 there does a really nice job when he first hits this linebacker. He's kind of on the inside of it. And we know he needs to be on, like, set the edge, basically, for this gap. And he does a really good job of, once he gets that initial contact, to rotate around the guy. Like right here, he kind of shifts and starts to push him inside more. He does a really good job of setting the edge when he didn't initially have it. So that was a big part of, I think, what made this play so successful. So shout out to 96 on that one. And then we have a similar play here. So this one's kind of a cool one. I liked this play a lot when I saw it live. We have them crowding the box. They know that we're going to be running it. And they're all crowding right in the middle. And you can see both sides are just wide open. And so we have an I formation. The blocker is going to come in right here like he's, we also have a nice little shift. Like he's going to create a gap right in the middle. So great shift here, creative shift. I think the way that this shift happens and the way that the I linebacker or the I blocker, the fullback comes in, kind of gives the impression that he's going to try to gap through right here. And so you can see all of them start to crowd that spot. And instead, Malik Sherrod is pretty much, as soon as he gets like one step with the ball, gets the ball, boom, makes the cut, and then jumps to the wide open outside. And there's really no shot of anyone stopping him. So this is a very well-designed run play, well executed as well. I think the play caller here, they did a really good job of seeing the open space, kind of predicting that they were going to crowd the box. And not even that, but Malik Sherrod, you know, for all I know, this play was supposed to go right there. And he did a really good job of recognizing, hey, this isn't happening, and just cutting it to the outside and utilizing that. Once again, it's been something that I've seen time and time again this year, where the running backs just kind of go right for the gap they're supposed to hit, even when it's not there and there's opportunities elsewhere. They're not really adapting mid-play. And this is a perfect example of what I mean by that. This is what it should be looking like. You know, I don't care if he is supposed to go right there. Let's just say he is. For all I, like I said, for all I know, it could be right there. It could have been designed to go to the outside. But either way, let's just say it was supposed to go right there. You know, he could have just ran into that gap and tried to power through. And the gap is, it's not like it's not there. He probably still would have made it. But it's so much smarter to just take this wide outside lane. And if we were to see the same thing downfield, that's a difference between, you know, 3, 4, 5 yards to, you know, a potential like first down or even a touchdown run, a really long run. So that kind of adapting in the middle of the play is something we need to see more and more of from the running backs going forward. I was really impressed with that this whole game. All right, so this is a play I want to look at. This demonstrates perfectly the improvement we have seen from Max Cutforth in pressure response on this game. There was a drastic improvement by him, something I've kind of been hounding on him for the whole year, and he made a really big improvement this game on how he responded to that pressure. And this play is, I think, the best play to demonstrate that. When I saw this unfold, I was really, really happy for him, really proud of how he handled this situation. We can see there's a wide open gap up the middle. 72 here kind of completely misses the guy. He goes over to kind of watch this hole and just completely misses this guy running right past him. Not a very heads up play by 72. He's just standing there not doing anything and lets a guy completely through. However, Max Cutforth is already seeing this at this moment. And he, instead of kind of being frantic and not knowing what to do with himself and running straight backwards or something like that, he does a nice job of rolling out in a way that allows him to avoid that pressure and still be able to throw on the run as well. We can see him continually the whole time he's scrambling outwards, looking downfield. That's something in previous games, all the way back to Air Force, he did not do. In a lot of those games, once he started scrambling and he got that pressure, he was watching the pressure and he was kind of just didn't know what to do with himself. He was so upset by the pressure that he didn't continue the play. And in this case, he rolls out and is continuing to look downfield and read the coverage. And it's really a drastic improvement from what we saw in prior games. And he's able to find the receiver for a great throw here. I mean, when I saw this live, I was like, it felt like a different quarterback from what we have seen the last few games. So I was really happy to see this. I think this shows that Max Cutforth can improve. And I feel honestly, I feel like this goes back to some of the coaching throughout the year. I feel like the coaching staff was not doing a very good job at focusing on these backups. They knew if Madsen went down, we were going to have to rely on these guys. And it sounds like for most of that year, they knew Max Cutforth was the guy that was going to be coming in. And I question why they weren't working on this stuff that they knew he was, his weaknesses. Why weren't they working to improve this stuff before it was too late? Before all of a sudden Madsen was out and he was scrambling to find his footing. When you have a single backup and he's the guy you're going to go to and you really only have Madsen, and if he goes down, like all year we're talking, if Madsen goes down, we're kind of screwed. They should have been working on this guy. I know they were focusing on Madsen to try to get him to play his best, but simultaneously, we need to be working on his backup, make sure that he is ready for if Madsen goes down. And I feel like that was missed. And I think showing the drastic improvement in this game as far as how he responds to pressure shows that either they weren't working on those weaknesses to teach him what to do instead, or they weren't giving him very good reps in practice that simulated environments like this. I know game time feels different. It feels faster paced, it can be a little bit tougher. But that's why we need to work in practice to create situations that try to replicate that as close as we can. And I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like from what I've seen, they just weren't doing a very good job of creating that in practice. And now, with his game reps and all of that, we're seeing it slowly him adapt and him start to learn what to do correctly instead of just kind of being frantic when the pressure comes. So this play made me very happy. It gave me a lot of hope for Max Cutforth going forward. So I think we've seen some really good things from our offense in this. A lot of the things that I've been critical of throughout this year seemed to be better this game. And part of that is on the coaching, and part of it, I mean, just the types of plays he was calling and when he was playing them. I think threw off the defense just a little bit more than normal. But also, this one was up to the players, too. The players performed better. Part of that is we're playing Colorado State. They're not as good of a team. but the line did a great job of jumping to the second level. In past games, we've seen them miss opportunities to jump to the second level. We saw a couple of them here, but not as many as we've seen in the past games. The line schemes did a great job of actually creating gaps. So the blocking, great job by the line. We need to keep that up. The running backs, I think, did a better job of breaking tackles and getting through tackles this time. I don't know if that lends itself to the tackling of Colorado State more, or if it lends itself to the running backs just kind of starting to progress a little bit in that area and keeping their balance better. Um, the thing I did know that the running backs improved on is reading those gaps and cutting to the outside to the open areas. Malik Sherrod, Sire Gaines, and Dylan Riley all did it at times where it was like they run in towards a gap that's supposed to be their gap. It closes up on them and they cut out to the outside and are able to break it for a big gain. It's something that I've seen multiple times in past games where I'm like, why did they not use that big gap on the outside? They just ran right into the line instead. And this game, we finally saw an improvement in that. So I really liked that. And then the final thing is Max Cutforth's pressure response. I think that was the one thing really holding Max Cutforth back. In all 3 games he's played in, all the way going back to Air Force, when he would get pressured, he would not be looking downfield. He would get frantic and a lot of times back up into another player coming. He just wasn't very good at recognizing the pressure, and when he did recognize it, he didn't respond properly. He kind of the play was over by the time he saw the pressure. And in this game, we saw a very different story. He was able to recognize that pressure and a lot of times roll out to avoid it. And like that one play we saw, even roll out to a point where he's able to roll out, keep looking downfield, and complete a hard throw, a precise throw, as he's on the run. So really impressive, I think, play by Max Cutforth. We saw a big improvement in all 3 of those areas, and I think that made a really, really big difference on this game. As far as defense I think has done a great job for most of this year. We saw it again in this game. The DBs, especially Irby, did an amazing job this game. Irby seemed to be in all the right places to make all those interceptions. Even when great job by Mickey stripping that ball on the fumble. He got his hands in there and he stripped the thing out real hard. And that fumble, even though Irby got credit for the turnover because he recovered it, that was all Mickey. And Mickey got in there and he stripped that ball. And the ball happened to go straight into Irby's hands. So, once again, Irby being in the right spot at the right time. And I think, it's going to be sad that we're losing Irby. I thought he was actually 1 year younger than he is. But yeah, so really good job by the DBs. Happy to see it. I hope that continues going forward into next year. We're going to be playing a lot of younger DBs next year because we're losing some of our guys. And it'll be really, I think, interesting to see how those guys do. We saw some of them come in this game with McCoy out, and they seemed to do pretty good. They weren't as much of the key players as like Irby and Mickey were, but they still did an amazing job. They held down their guys so that they, weren't being passed to. And I think even just that demonstrates that they have the capabilities and, they're young. They'll continue to grow as we go forward as well. So overall, great game by Boise State in this one. Really happy to see the improvements on the offense and the continuation of good, strong gameplay on the defense. So our next game is Utah State. Utah beat Fresno, which kind of keeps us in the running for the championship. Now we just need to go in, beat Utah handily, and we have a really good shot of getting in the championship and getting a second chance at San Diego State, which I know a lot of these players are probably itching for. So I'm really excited for this Utah game. Here in a day or two, we're going to be doing another video that breaks down Utah State's film and, like we did with Colorado here, where I think their weaknesses and their strengths are, the things we need to watch out for, and the spots where we can take advantage of them. So join us back for that. If you guys have liked this video, please subscribe, like, and share it with somebody. We're a brand new channel, and it really, really means a lot when you guys share it. Getting the word out, getting more viewers is going to really help us to grow as a channel. We love Boise State. We love talking about Boise State, watching Boise State, and just communicating with all of you guys. So please, once again, comment, and we'll see you guys next time.